All right, welcome back. It's that time of year where I park my car for the season as winter is upon us here in British Columbia, Canada, and I start working through my list of to-dos of little odds and sods that the car needs. So we took a look at that wiper motor in my last video, and now we are going to disassemble the wiper transmission and show you what's all in it. And then off to the side, I have the one that I have refinished, and we're going to assemble that one, and then we'll put it in the car. So in front of me, we have the wiper transmission, everything that is going to make up that assembly. So in that, you have these two triangular brackets, you have these like pivoting levers, and then you have the two arms themselves that join the two levers as well as join to the motor. So on the very top, you've already taken these off if you've gotten this far, but these are the little cap nuts that hold your wiper together and on the car, and they are both M10 by 1.5, and they have a depth of about 10 millimeters. So those are those two nuts. Then after that, we will pop these arms off. So if you're looking at it on the car, this is what it's going to look like. There's two of them. They are different. Does matter. You have to make sure they go back in the right way. If you've forgotten, you can look at this and this will tell you how. So this one is going to mount to the actual motor, and this one is going to mount to this arm here. So I don't care about this because I have new ones, replacement ones, which I'm sure people will be interested in because you can't actually get the OE, the wiper transmission joint anymore. So I'll show you the ones that I found. So if you just lift it up, it pops off. Most of these are broken after a while. So the factory ones, they come like this, and they have like a little retaining clip that goes on the other side that holds it in place, but they're often broken and brittle and not reusable. So you can break them off and throw them to the side because I'm going to show you where you can get some new ones that work. That is the arm. This is the arm that is on the front side and connects to the motor. So nothing super special to see about this. It's in decent shape. They're like a galvanized plated piece of steel, and all I've done is clean them all up, blasted them, and powder coat them. So we'll put this one off to the side, and I'll show you the new ones in a little minute here. Okay, so then after that, we'll pop this one off here. On this, on the right hand side, it's labeled SF1. There's an SF1, and then on the other side there's an SF1L. So it will tell you left and right. Okay, so put that down there, and then we'll pop this one off. This is the other side. We're just going to rotate it, pop it out, put that there. You have the other wiper transmission pivot joint right there. So that is the other arm. We'll put that one up there. We'll put these up there. And then we will grab these two. So this is an assembly of like a pivot arm and a bracket. On the top, we'll start with the one that's just labeled SF1. This is going to be, if you're looking at the car from the engine bay, it's on the right-hand side. It would also be considered a left-hand drive, the left-hand drive side for the car. So this is just a little plastic piece, and you just pop the clips, and then it should just pop out. Just a beauty piece. We'll put that there. And then you have the arm. The arm has one of these little rubber washers. There's a couple of these, so you can, well, I guess we'll pull it off. It just slides over top of that pivot bearing. And then on below, we have a little C-clip right here. Let's pop that off. These bend pretty easily. And there we go. So that is the little C-clip right there. So that just comes off the top. Once that comes off the top, you can wiggle out the bracket. Inside of this bracket, there are two like nylon or plastic bushings that hold this shaft. I'm going to show you those and the dimensions when we assemble it in a minute here. This is like a cast aluminum piece, so it doesn't rust, it doesn't really ever go bad. I did coat these, but it is nice that Honda used aluminum here, because then they don't fall apart like everything else that's now 35 years old and rusting. So we'll put that to the side, and I'll show you more of what's in it after. If you were just going to push them out, you can just put a punch down there and just push them through. But we don't need to do that right now. Then on what I'm calling the lever, which just pivots back and forth, you're going to have, so there's 3 pieces on here. You're going to have an O-ring, and then you're going to have a flat washer, and then you're going to have like a wave washer, a spring washer. So that is spring washer first, then the weight, then the flat washer, and then the O-ring, and then the clip, which will hold it all together, goes right on the end like that. So that is the whole assembly, if you're looking to see how it goes back together. Okay, so that is the first one, and this one has a single pivot ball bearing, and this is on, it's on the driver's side of the car here in North America, and it's labeled SF1. And then we'll put that down and we'll grab the other one. So the second one that we have, this one is labeled SF1L. And if you're looking at the car, it's on the left-hand side. So again, it has that same rubber bushing. We can just pull over the pivot point. We can put it over there. It too has the beauty cap. So we'll just pop that off. I would be careful because you'll have to find a new one if you break it. Then this one, as you can see, it'll look better on the when I show you the new ones, but there's the markings on it. There's the pivot point, and then underneath, this one has a pivot point as well. So you can take off that rubber bushing as well. It's on that bottom pivot point. And then we're going to pop off that C-clip. So we'll just push it off. These are pretty flimsy, honestly, for a C-clip. They pull apart, and you often need to squeeze them back together when you're reassembling it. Okay, so pull that off, and then same as the other one, you can rotate this until it pops out. These are pretty gummed up, that's why I'm taking this apart. We're going to clean them all up and put them all back together, greased. The aluminum piece, that is that's the support that bolts to the body, and then we have the same breakdown here. Oh, actually, I think I lost the O-ring. Oh no, the O-ring is right in here. So the O-ring pushes into the top of here. This one's kind of old and grimy, but it's stuck in the top. And then by the top, I mean the short side on this right here. There's actually a recess that will fit into, and I'll show you on the new one, the remanufactured one. And then we have the same layout. We have the flat washer, and then there is the wave washer right there, and then the C-clip there after you have put the O-ring here. So that is that assembly. So that is all of the pieces from your wiper linkage, the transmission, and everything that makes up the wiper transmission. I think I've pretty much covered them all. We're going to talk a little bit more about these bushings when we put it all back together. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear all of this old stuff out of the way. We'll bring the new stuff into view, and then we can start reassembling it all together, and you can see how it goes together, as well as the replacement parts that I have found that work for this wiper assembly. All right, let's get repositioned. All right, let's go back through and show you the reassembly of the refinished parts that I have done over last winter so that I could put it together for this winter. So we showed you all of these in the disassembly. So let's go through and show you putting them back together. So the 2 support brackets that we have, they are interchangeable. They are identical. They have an SF1 on them. One says 4 and one says 3. I don't know if that's just a casting difference, but they are the same. They both have this little tab on the bottom. That's an alignment tab that pushes into a recess on the chassis, and it goes in like that and in like that. So inside of these brackets, you will find these little bushings, and this is what takes up the space between this pivot arm and in here, like that. So these get pushed in, pressed into here, and you can press them in with a bunch of different things. I use my arbor press, or you can use a vise, you can use a clamp. But so these bushings, they're normally perfectly fine, but I measure them for you so that you can know what they are. So these factory bushings, they have, I figured I'd show you. So the inner diameter is about 12.05, and then the outer diameter is about 15, and then you have a height of 12.17, so yeah, 12.15, somewhere around there. There's probably some variation between the bushing to bushing. I did go looking for these. They're not a part you can get. I did find something similar to this in brass, which is an option. But for now, I thought you might want to see that, or keep your eyes open for another bushing. I know I'm always looking for substitutions because there's so few things that are still made for these cars. So that is the dimensions of that bushing if you were going to try and change them and you want to go hunting for them. And if you find a supplier, drop a comment and let me know. Okay, so that's the bushing that goes inside there. There are 2 of them, and they go into this right here. So you can see this recess in here, and this is where the O-ring sits. So on this side, you're going to push that bushing through up to where that recess is right here. So you're going to have a little gap on the top, and that little gap is where the O-ring is going to press into, like that. So push that one up to where that recess is machined into, and on this side you can push that down to the flush with the edge. Actually, I got these reversed. You can sorry, this is the one that has the recess. You can see it right in there. I don't know if you can see it, but you push the bushing right up to the recess, and then the O-ring fits in there. Oh yeah, it fits a lot better in this side than what I was trying to do on the other side. So that fits in like that. The other side, you can push this up to as close to the edge as you want. Just don't get them bunched up together. Don't do that with them. Spread them out so that there's a gap. That's all I'm saying. Okay, so this one we've pushed together already. This one I am going to push together. I'm going to push that together quickly, just off camera probably. I will be right back with the second one assembled, and we will continue. Those actually went in a lot easier because I have cleaned out the inside of those. Now what I did to do that, if you're going to take these apart and you're going to paint them, you don't really want to get too much paint inside of there, or you will change the tolerance and it will become too tight to actually go together and actually pivot. So make sure that you don't paint the inside of that. And if you do get some overspray in there, I was just going to say what I use is just normally I'll get one of these brushes, I'll cut the end off and I'll put it in my drill, and we'll just run the plunger through a couple times until you get to the point where it's all nicely polished and there's no paint in there, and then it'll work just fine. Okay, so we've pushed those 2 bushings in there. We now have these both ready to go. What are we going to do next? Well, I guess next we're going to show you these arms. So we have the left one. I'm going to try and so you can see the numbers. So it says SF1L. This is going to be on the left. And then you have the other one which says SF1, and that's going to be on the right. The SF1 has a single pivot point. The SF1L has a pivot point on the front and the back. Is there anything else I can tell you about these? It's interesting sometimes to see what markings are on these, especially if you're looking through a pile of parts and trying to find the ones that are for the 3GP. Yeah, so that's those 2. Okay, so on there you can see you have a rubber washer basically right there, bushing, a rubber washer right there on both sides, and a rubber washer right there. Okay, these have been powder coated. I powder coated these. Unfortunately, that was too thick for the shaft to go through. And I had to end up sanding that off, and I've just hit them with some spray paint. I also spray painted the top here with the threads. Don't put powder on there, and don't put powder on there. So this whole thing got powdered, and then I cleaned off parts of it and then just hit them with this rattle can to match it and give it some protection. But ultimately be careful what you're putting powder on, because you do change the thicknesses of things, and sometimes it doesn't work out. So here we go. So you can take this one, it can go in here. Doesn't matter which bracket you use. We're gonna grab just a little grease. You can put a little bit on that shaft, and then we will reassemble all of the washers. Just get a rag. Okay, so the first one that is going to go on here is the wave washer. So it's just a tensioning spring essentially. So we're going to take it, we're going to slide it all the way to the top. Then we will take the flat washer and put it on there as well. And then we can take the O-ring and we can slide the O-ring up there to the top. And then we will take our support bracket, and so this goes up, the long part goes down. You can slide it through there, work it in, then you can sink that O-ring into the relief, and then it's together, and that feels perfect. So then we can take our little C-clip and we can push that in. And like I said, these C-clips, they are super flimsy. So if that's what's happened, just squeeze it together so that it actually is going to hold it in place. And then we'll just clean it off, rotate it a few times. Everything looks absolutely awesome. And there's the finished assembly. And it'll work perfectly. It spins freely. Everything's good. So there is that. Just put the cap on for now. But yeah, like I said, don't put powder on here, which I never put powder on here. I had put powder on the bottom. So I ended up having to take the powder off the bottom and just rattle can the top and rattle can the bottom, mostly just to match the rest of the bracket. You don't have to, but any sort of protection for that bare metal is better than nothing. So there's that one assembled. I guess with this one, maybe I will actually tell you what the size of these are. So the this wave washer, it has an outer diameter of 17.9 millimeters. It has an inner diameter of 12.4 millimeters and a thickness of 0.31 millimeters, in case you're looking for something like that. The next one, the flat washer, it has an outer diameter of 19.25 millimeters, an inner diameter of 12.25 millimeters, and a thickness of 0.5 millimeters. This O-ring, as best as I could measure it for you, it has an outer diameter of about 16.4 millimeters, an inner diameter of 12 millimeters, and a thickness of 2.5 millimeters if you're looking for a replacement. So those are all those pieces. So let's put this other one together. So we can take some more of our lithium grease, grab a little bit, rub it all around, and then we can start assembling this. So we're going to take that wave washer, put the wave washer on, then we'll take the flat washer, put the flat washer on, then we'll take the O-ring, push the O-ring on. Then after we have that, we'll take our other support bracket. And remember, that little alignment dowel goes down. The short stuff is at the top, long one's at the bottom. You take it in, you can sink it, and it should look like that. And when you push it together, it should sink that O-ring into the recess. There we go. Once that's done, we can give it a quick wipe, and we can reattach the C-clip. The C-clip can go on like so. And again, these are super flimsy for some reason, so I just close it up so that it doesn't slip off, and then give it a wipe and a rotation. This one is a little bit tighter than the other one. That's okay. It'll work its way in. Okay, so there we go. We are going to put that one there, that one there. We can put the cap on. And those two I'm going to put on when we get closer to putting this all back in the car. Now we're going to put those to the side. I'm going to grab the arms themselves and the replacement, the wiper linkage bushing. So give me a second. I'm going to move some stuff out of the way and we'll keep going. All right, we're going to back this bus up for a minute, and we are going to take a look at these wiper arms and more specifically the way these new replacement bushings fit into them. This is an issue that I discovered when I replaced these the first couple of times, and while these new wiper linkage bushings work, they are quite simply too tight. They fit in there, you can pop them in. They gotta take a little extra force getting them in, but when you pop them on the pivot arm, they're too tight. They have an incredible amount of resistance, and you're making that wiper motor work a lot harder than it needs to. Can you do it? Absolutely. Should you do it? It's up to you. If you want to replace the wiper motor more frequently, then don't worry about it. But if you're like me and you want to try and fix some of these little nuances that are bothersome, then we're going to do what I have done, which is modify the arm to accept the new available bushings, because you're not going to get the old bushing anymore. If someone happens to know where you can, or you found a better one, drop a comment. I'll have a look, I'll give it a try, but I can't find them. They don't exist. So you have two replacement options. One of them I think is more commonly known. I think it's been posted about before. The other one, not so much. And I happened to come across it simply because my wife has a Subaru, and I was replacing some bushings on her car, and I had, hey man, this looks really close to what the other one is. Measured it up, gave it a try. It fits marginally better because it has a slightly larger inner diameter, but not enough for you to really care. The biggest part of this is that in this package you get 4 of the same pieces, and in the other one, the one that I think is more well known, you get 2 pieces and 2 pieces. 2 you got to throw out, 2 will work, so you need 2 packages instead of just buying 1. So why not just buy 1 package? So yeah, we're essentially, what's going to happen here is I'm going to measure these up for you just to give you an idea of what they are. But what we're essentially doing, and we'll go over the arms in a little bit, is I have ground thickness off of this arm to make it slightly thinner, like 0.2 of a millimeter thinner. And then the inner diameter, I've taken you can take a rotary tool or a die grinder or a Dremel and just 2 little zips around there just to like make it circular and clean it out a little bit. That is all you need to do. You do not want to do too much. And if you take too much thickness off, you will also create a problem. You have to get it just right. And I will give you the numbers and we'll talk about it. But that's what we're trying to do. Because essentially these bushings, they don't have a groove that is thick enough to accommodate this arm. So it's getting stuck on those little pressure tanks, and they're being depressed in and not snapping out by going through here completely, which creates a lot of additional resistance on that spherical bearing. So let's talk about the bushings, and we'll get them all measured up. So I'm just gonna reposition a few things and then we will carry on. All right, let's take a look at these bushings and see what we're trying to do and the options that I am going to present. So we have on this fairly rudimentary drawing, I am no artist, there is the bushing that we're talking about, and we are trying to change the thickness and the diameter of the arm in order to accommodate the replacement bushing that we have available. So we don't have an OE bushing available to us anymore, so we have to use something else. And I want to make the arm fit the new bushing that we can get. So let's measure these up and maybe I'll take a picture of this just so you can see all the measurements if you care, but ultimately I'm just going to show you what we're measuring. So essentially I'm measuring that groove. So we're going to measure the inside diameter of that groove. And on the OE one, so we're measuring that inside groove, the OE diameter, it's about 17.7 to 17.85. I measured a bunch of the used ones that I have, and that's what it comes out to. The next measurement we're going to make is the thickness of that groove. And on the OE one, it's kind of hard to do because it's two pieces, but it's about 2.2 mil. So that's what the OE one is. And then what really makes our situation worse with these is when you go to push this in, because the other ones don't accommodate the size of this spherical ball as easily as the other ones. This doesn't get pushed out or splayed out. It goes over it and it fits and it retracts back to its like neutral position. Whereas the other ones, they splay out and they apply more pressure onto the actual bearing, the joint. Okay, so that's the empty and thickness and the stretched, and then we have so the ball diameter here, it's I have it written down as 13.45 to 13.75. Again, you're measuring plastic, that's what it is, but that's what we're measuring. And then the socket depth is about, that's what we're measuring. It's about 11.23 plus or minus a little bit. So that is an OE one. Now we're going to talk about these two different options, which I already mentioned. So the one is 49464. It comes with 4 pieces in that, but it's 2 of each different size. So this is the one I think people know about because it is listed as a Honda replacement piece. But I think there's a better option. And I found out about this option because I was doing this work on my wife's Subaru. So the one I'm going to recommend, it's listed as Subaru, 49468. And I'm recommending it because it has 4 pieces in one package. You don't have to buy 2 packages, but also it has a slightly bigger inner diameter, which does give you a little extra clearance and make it a little less stiff. So I think it's a better option. Both will work. I think this one's better. Just that you get 4 pieces, really. So then that measurement for the 49468, again, we're measuring that inner diameter of that groove. It is about 17.78. And again, if you spin it around, you're going to get some fluctuation up to 17.9. The thickness of this groove is about 2.2. Now this varies wildly in these packages, anywhere from 2 to 2.2. That's why some of them seem to fit better than others, but ultimately we are going to try and adjust that by adjusting the arm diameter and thickness. So the next one is the stretched. So when you put this onto that spherical ball and you stretch it out, this is where you begin to see a bigger difference. This one becomes 17.95 to 18.1, and that's you pop the ball in, it pushes these out, and you end up with that, which is a fair amount bigger than the OE one, which is what's creating that tension inside that joint. Okay, and then we have the inner ball diameter, which is also very similar to the OE. It is 13.2, which is not as big as the OE diameter, and that does make it tighter. There's all these little factors that multiply to end up with this very tight fitting bushing, but we're going to try and fix that. So 13.25 to like 13.2. And then the depth, again, the depth is very similar. It's like 11.3, 11.43. It's pretty close to the OE one, and it's really not a big difference. So that is the 49468. 49464, the smaller ones in the package, they have an inner diameter of 17.78, again plus or minus a bit. They have a thickness. This thickness is a little tighter. It's generally about 2 millimeters plus or minus a little bit. I have 1.9 to 2.0, so it fits a little bit tighter as well. And then the stretched, this one is by far, it fits that spherical ball the worst. When you stretch this out, when you push the ball in, it opens up to like 18.35 to 18.45. So it's going to have the most push into that wiper arm out of any of these options. And then the ball ID is, again, it's the same sort of 13.1 to 13.25. And the depth is, again, 11.42 plus or minus 0.05. So they're all very similar in most regards, other than when you push this onto the socket and it splays that out and applies more pressure against the wall of the actual arm, which just makes everything fit tighter. So how are we going to fix that? We are going to remove material from the inside of the diameter of the arm, as well as thickness from the diameter of the arm. So those are the options in front of us. We're not going to worry about that one anymore. We are only going to worry about the 4.9, 4.6.8. We don't need the OE one because the OE we can't get. So we are just going to look at this one for a second, and we are going to show you how this can be made to fit in the arm in a better way, that it snaps in easier, and it also fits that spherical ball bearing better. Okay, so I'm just going to take a second here. I'm going to move a few things around, and then we are going to look at the actual arm itself. All right, let's take a look at these arms and getting that bushing to fit in these arms and the modifications that I have made. So basically, this is where I backed up the bus, got out another set of arms, and I started experimenting with removing material on one side to reduce the thickness and using a Dremel to open the inside to increase the diameter. So you can see on the OE unmodified arm that there is a pressed sort of embossing, a circular ring in that end joint, and it's on both sides. So what I have done is I've only modified one side, and you can see this one was too much. You can see I've ground it down, and that pressed stamp, that circle, is completely gone. If you go this too far, you've gone too far. So you do not want to get rid of it. Now let's look at the other side. This one fits really nice. You can still kind of see the stamping all the way around. That's more what we want, and you want to grind a little bit of material at a time. Try it, a little material, try it until you get to the right thickness. So what is the right thickness? So the OE essentially of this, if you measure around that mark, it's about it measures from like what did I write down? It measures about 2.15 to 2.25 all around there, 2.27. So it's thicker than it needs to be to fit that new bushing. Our target thickness is 2.0 or 2.05. So if we look at this one, which I've ground, this is one that's ground a little bit much, but it's 1.9 and 1.88, 1.87. So this is one that has been ground a little bit more. I ground them to different thicknesses. You are looking for about 2.0 would be the thickness you want. So on this side, yeah, so this one's about 2.0. That is the correct thickness, and that means you want to get rid of part of that stamped embossed marking, but you still want to be able to see it. If you get rid of it all the way, you've gone too far, and you will have to figure something else out. So that's what we're going to do. I just put it on a belt sander so I could lay it flat and take material off in a very even way. And then I just would pull it off, measure until I got to the point where I was happy that it was equal all the way around. And then it's good. And for the inner diameter, so the OE is like, I mean, there's some wild measurements here, 17.8 to like 17.9, maybe 18 in some spots. And when we modify it, we are looking for, I don't know if this one's the right one. Yeah, this one's too big. So we are looking for 18 to 18.05 millimeters. So you want a thickness of 2 millimeters or just over, and an open diameter inside of 18 or 18.05. And that will allow this groove to snap into place and fit so that there's just a little bit of friction on that. And when you push the spherical bearing in there, it'll expand it and tighten it up so it will hold properly. Right now, when you push it in with the stock one, it's holding so tightly that it doesn't want to move. And this is a game of like tenths of a millimeter we're talking about. So yeah, grind it down to 2 or just over 2 millimeters and open up that inner circle to 18 to 18.5. That is literally all I did on the inside. It was like 2 or 3 loops with a Dremel, very light pressure. And then on the outside, I put it on a belt sander and just applied pressure until you grind some of it off until you get to the right thickness, and grind till you get the right diameter. You will find that then you no longer have to like use a vise to push these in. They should push in a little bit easier now that they fit a little bit better. So that's what we're gonna do. I am going to hit these with some spray paint, just because spray paint doesn't add any sort of thickness really to this part, just a little extra protection, and then push these all in, and then we can put them all back together and we'll assemble the transmission on the table here. That should give you the correct thickness. Now, be warned, I would say that if you are doing this, I would make a change, a small change, measure it. Make a small change, measure it. Repeat this process until you get to roughly the correct size, or push the bushing in and see if it fits. Like I said, don't grind away that whole groove because you will have gone too far. But it does give you a good guide while you're grinding to figure out and gauge how much material you need to get rid of. Okay, so that's the arms that we experimented with. These are the arms that we're going to use that I am going to finish grinding, and then I'll hit them with the spray bomb, pop the joints through, and then we will reassemble the whole transmission assembly, and that will complete our video of this. So I'm going to do the spray paint and push them in, and then we'll come back and we will assemble the final product. All right, we're back. And off camera, I took the arms that we have just refinished and I removed that remaining material from the flat ends, and then I removed some inner material from the inner diameter and checked along the way to make sure that this bushing was fitting correctly. And you should get to the point where those tangs push through completely and they snap into place, and it has a little bit of tension on it now. It fits just right. So that is the goal as you work your way through modifying these arms. So our target is for thickness between 2.00 and 2.05 millimeters for the thickness, and a diameter of 18.05 millimeters in that circle. It is a little bit elongated, so if you're going to use a Dremel, I would recommend you use a Dremel. Just hit it 3 or 4 times, light pressure. That should just clean it out and give you just that little extra room to pop this bushing in place. Don't use a die grinder. Don't remove a lot of material. You will take off too much, and then you'll be out of luck. So there's the arms. We have modified them. We have pushed the new bushings in. These bushings actually push in by hand, some of them. You still have to use pliers on a couple, but they should be a lot easier than they were before unmodified. The part number we used is 49468, a Dorman product, and we're using this one as opposed to that other one because you get 4 pieces in one case. There is the added benefit that the inner diameter of the joint is slightly bit bigger, but not really so much that we care, but every little bit helps when we're doing this. And speaking of every little bit it helps, I have a Dremel in front of me, and I was just gonna say, if you are still experiencing them being tight, you can take a grinding and buffing pad and you can just polish up those spherical joints just to clean them up and make them, maybe even take a little material off of them if you're still having trouble. But that's just an above and beyond if you're still having trouble. Okay. So we have got the new joints in. I pop a little lithium grease in there, and now these move just perfectly. They have the right amount of resistance, whereas before they were nearly impossible to push. Well, not impossible, but they took way too much effort. So this should really increase the life of that motor for us. So as well, when we go to put this back in the car, if you don't remember, that back rod, the one that's on the bottom over here, it has a single kink in it over here, and it runs straight over to there. And on the one that runs from the wiper motor, it goes up, it has a kink, and then it goes here and it has a kink, and here it has a kink as well. So just so you know which way these to go back on and get them back in the car correctly. Okay, I think that's everything you need to know. This video has taken longer than, again, I had hoped, but my point is to bring you the detailed version of this disassembly, reassembly. We've refinished it. We've made the part better than it was before because now it can accommodate the new bushings. So in the future, it's a simple plug and play process. Okay, well, I'm going to put this back in my car. I don't know if I'll make a video about that or not, but thanks for hanging out with me and watching me disassemble and reassemble a 1990 Honda Prelude wiper transmission. So all the best. Keep those classic Hondas rolling.